400 million years ago, life on Earth looked very different to today. Forget pristine forests, the early Devonian was an alien world of mosses and lichen, where the largest plants were no taller than knee height. Things were getting boisterous below the waves, but up above all was quiet. The only animals to have colonised land so far were the arthropods, early arachnids and millipedes. If you were transported back in time to this ancient landscape, you would feel like a giant, and very quickly struggle to find food. I hope you like fish. But there were still large life forms in this primitive world. Peppering the landscape, cylindrical pillars known as Prototaxites stood like slightly suggestive sentinels, towering high above everything else. Though there were small species too, the tallest Prototaxites loomed 6 to 9 meters tall. They would eventually be dwarfed by the trees that would replace them, but for about 50 million years, these were the only giants on dry land. Prototaxites fossils have been found from America to Europe, and fossilised boreholes reveal they were an important part of the early Devonian ecosystem, providing food and shelter for their tiny arthropod neighbours. Despite looking like limbless, leafless trees with metre-wide trunks, they have long been believed to be a form of fungi, real-life giant mushrooms. But a new study of well-preserved fossils from the Rhynie Chert deposit in Scotland has revealed that Prototaxites was not a fungus after all. These scientists claim the genus belongs to an entirely new kingdom of life, one we know tantalisingly little about. We'll get to that in just a minute, but first it's worth looking at the history of Prototaxites, which has puzzled paleontologists for a long time, thanks to its curious combination of plant and fungi-like features. They're superficially tree-like, but a microscope reveals they're made up of interwoven tubes, a bit like the hyphae that form the mycelium of mushrooms. When Prototaxites was first discovered, it was thought to be two organisms, an ancient rotting conifer fossilised alongside the fungus using it as a home/snack. Then it was believed to be a bizarre breed of algae, despite living on land. Different theories were tossed around over the years, until 2007, when the possibility that Prototaxites was a plant was firmly stamped out by scientists examining their carbon isotopes. Plants of the same type, living around the same time, have similar ratios of the stable carbon isotopes C12 and C13, because they all take in their carbon from the atmosphere, which is relatively constant wherever you are on Earth, and they all process it through photosynthesis. Heterotrophs consume carbon from other organisms, and because they take it in from different sources, their ratio of carbon isotopes can be much more varied, matching whatever they eat. And different Prototaxites specimens have different carbon isotope ratios, which means they weren't photosynthesizing, and must have been a consumer like an animal or a fungus. Since this clearly wasn't an animal, that left only one option. Doesn't this seem like a fungi? There were still some problems though. For instance, modern fungi thrive on organic material, and without trees or large land animals running around dying or defecating, the early Devonian didn't have much biomass to support something of Prototaxites' size. One idea was that Prototaxites was like lichen, a fungus in symbiosis with photosynthesizing algae, two organisms functioning as one. But no evidence of this photosynthesizing friend has ever been found, even in the best preserved Prototaxites fossils. There are other options too though. Mushrooms are just the part of fungi used to disperse spores, and the majority of the organism is hidden underground. Prototaxites may have been a fruiting body of an organism supporting itself with an especially massive network of underground mycelia, vast webs for gathering nutrients. Another theory is that these trunks were growing sideways, not upwards, a big mass of foraging rhizomes which could branch out to locate new sources of energy. Think the Stranger Things vines, only less murdery. But a new study, first released in 2025 and now peer-reviewed, pokes holes in the whole fungal theory. Examining a particularly good fossil of a species called Prototaxites tighti, these scientists were able to look at the organisms more closely than ever before, and they found structures we wouldn't usually expect to see in a fungus. For instance, many Prototaxites species have these clearly visible medullary spots. Zooming in to see the fine details, those spots turn out to be complex networks of different types of interconnected tubes, including some that are absolutely minuscule, 10 times smaller than those that form the surrounding body. The paper notes that these areas look a bit like blood capillary networks, or the alveoli in our lungs, and may have had a similar function. They probably played a role in the exchange of gas, nutrients, or water, and don't match anything found in fungi. The paper also describes how a small number of the tubes in Prototaxites are banded, reinforced with regular ring-like thickenings. Again, there aren't good analogues in fungi. These actually resemble the tracheid cells used for transporting water in plants. Simultaneously, the authors suggest they may have provided structural support, allowing Prototaxites to grow so tall. This evidence might not have been enough to change minds if it wasn't presented alongside more compelling chemical analysis. The cell walls of fungi contain chitin, the same material found in insect exoskeletons, and it's doing the same job, providing structural support for the organism. Examining the composition of the Prototaxites specimens using infrared spectroscopy, the scientists found it was lacking the molecules they'd expect to see form when chitin fossilizes. In fact, helpfully, this area, the Rhynie chert, contains plenty of fungus and arthropod fossils, allowing for easy comparison. This graph shows how the molecular makeup of Prototaxites turns out to be very different to that of the nearby fungi and insects, and very different to the plants as well. So just as the earlier work on carbon isotopes ruled out the plants, this new evidence rules out the fungus kingdom as well. In fact, the authors helpfully included this flowchart, showing how, by process of elimination, every possibility is crossed out one by one, until the only answer we have left is, this must be something altogether new. Prototaxites turns out to be not mammoth mushrooms, but something much stranger, an extinct kingdom, and a giant lifeform with no known close relationship to anything else on Earth.